20 shocking ways the royals tried to keep Princess Diana silent until now. They tried to keep her quiet. They tried to make sure the truth never saw the light of day. Princess Diana was more than a thorn in the side of the British monarchy. She was a force they couldn't control. But what they did behind closed doors to silence her will send shivers down your spine. This isn't just about the paparazzi chases or the divorce drama. We're talking about secret meetings, manipulation, threats, and the lengths the royals went to make sure Princess Diana's voice was never heard. From stripping her of her title to chilling surveillance operations. In this video, we're counting down 20 shocking ways the royal family tried to keep Princess Diana silent. You won't believe the extremes they went to, and why. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear is something the royal family never wanted you to know. Number 1. Restricted public appearances. After her separation from King Charles, Princess Diana's public appearances became closely monitored. It wasn't just about her safety. It was about control. Every move Princess Diana made was carefully scrutinized, and the number of events she could attend was drastically reduced. It was an attempt to limit her platform, to make sure her voice and influence didn't grow beyond the monarchy's control. By managing where she went and who she spoke to, the royal family tried to cut off Princess Diana's connection to the public. This form of isolation was calculated. Princess Diana was known for her charismatic appeal and her ability to connect deeply with the people, something that terrified the institution because it made her more influential than the stiff protocols of the monarchy. Restricting her public engagements also meant that Princess Diana had fewer opportunities to talk directly about her experiences or causes, preventing her from shedding light on the challenges she faced behind palace walls. It was a deliberate silencing, executed under the guise of protocol. Number 2. Withdraw of HRH title. One of the most striking moves made by the royals was stripping Princess Diana of her Royal Highness title in 1996. This wasn't just a symbolic move. It was a major blow to her standing and her security. Without the HRH title, Princess Diana was no longer formally protected by the institution, which not only made her more vulnerable, but also diminished her role in the eyes of the public. It was meant to take away her authority and sever her ties to the monarchy, making her just Princess Diana, Princess of Wales, instead of a full royal. To Princess Diana, losing the HRH title was heartbreaking, particularly since it had repercussions for her relationship with her children, Prince William and Prince Harry. They would still have to bow to other royals, but not to their own mother, a constant, painful reminder of her reduced status. It was a clear signal from the royal family that she was now an outsider, and it was intended to diminish her voice, to make her seem less important. Number 3. Surveillance by royal aides. Reports indicated that Princess Diana was constantly under surveillance by royal aides. Imagine living your life with every step you take being watched, your words recorded, and your actions reported. This wasn't just for security purposes. It was a tactic to monitor and restrict Princess Diana's movements, ensuring that she stayed within the limits set by the palace. These aides were essentially the eyes and ears of the institution, shadowing Princess Diana at events and in her personal life. The constant surveillance not only invaded her privacy, but also worked as a way to control her behavior. Princess Diana often spoke about feeling like she was being suffocated, and the truth behind this surveillance certainly supports that sentiment. It was about control, pure and simple. By knowing where she was and who she was meeting, the royals could keep her from making alliances or speaking freely to the press. The walls weren't just metaphorical. They were very real, closing in on Princess Diana wherever she went. Number 4. Denied protection from royal bodyguards. Following her divorce from King Charles, Princess Diana lost access to the royal bodyguard service that had previously kept her safe. This wasn't just a change in logistics. It was an act that left her isolated and vulnerable. With her security details stripped away, Princess Diana was no longer under the official protection of the royals, effectively making her an easier target. She was left to arrange her own security, and the royal family seemed indifferent to the risks that came with being one of the most famous women in the world. It's worth noting that this was done despite her ongoing battles with intrusive paparazzi. The lack of royal protection added to the isolation Princess Diana felt, as though she was being left out to fend for herself. It's chilling to think that someone who was once central to the royal household could be so easily discarded. Her safety no longer a priority. This lack of support was a powerful way to silence her, because without protection, how could she move freely or speak openly? Number 5. The media campaign against her. The royal family was not above using the media to discredit Princess Diana. They allegedly encouraged a narrative portraying her as emotionally unstable and unreliable, a move that was not only cruel, but also strategic. By controlling the media narrative, they could sway public opinion against her. Stories were leaked to paint Princess Diana in a negative light, whether about her relationships, her mental health, or her behavior, in an attempt to undermine her credibility. This manipulation of the media wasn't an isolated occurrence. It was a sustained campaign aimed at making Princess Diana seem erratic and unfit. The idea was to ensure that anything Princess Diana said publicly could be dismissed as the ramblings of someone who was troubled. It's heartbreaking, knowing how deeply she struggled with her mental health, to see those vulnerabilities used against her. The royals knew the power of perception, and they wielded it against Princess Diana with chilling precision. Number 6. Isolation tactics. Princess Diana was also systematically isolated from King Charles' public events and royal gatherings after the separation. It was a way to keep her out of sight and out of mind, an attempt to prevent her from being in the public eye alongside the rest of the royal family. By excluding her from these key events, Princess Diana was not only kept away from potential allies, but also from the traditional royal spotlight. This isolation extended to keeping her away from events where she might have been able to gather support or build a stronger narrative around herself. The royals knew that Princess Diana's presence at public events brought her the adoration of the masses, which only threatened to eclipse the traditional royal family's influence. By keeping her separate, they aimed to minimize her role and prevent her from building any momentum that could challenge their authority. It was a clear effort to remove her voice from the narrative of the royal family altogether. Number 7. Press briefings to control narrative. It's said that Buckingham Palace gave controlled briefings to journalists, often presenting Princess Diana in a negative light. The aim was to ensure that any news about Princess Diana was filtered through a lens that suited the royal agenda. By briefing the press, they could spin stories before they ever reached the public. They could decide which parts of Princess Diana's life were highlighted and which parts were buried. This was especially effective because Princess Diana herself had no similar mechanism to control the media narrative. She was one person against a powerful institution. The controlled briefings ensured that Princess Diana's voice was drowned out by official statements and carefully crafted stories that served the monarchy's interests. They framed her as difficult, emotional, and even unstable, all designed to discredit her and silence her perspective. By taking control of the press narrative, the royals effectively gagged Princess Diana's ability to tell her own story, leaving her with no platform to fight back. Number 8. Pressure from friends. The pressure wasn't just from within the palace walls. Princess Diana's closest friends and confidants were reportedly coerced into discouraging her from speaking out. The royals knew that if they could silence the people around Princess Diana, they could isolate her further. Friends who had stood by her during her marriage suddenly found themselves under intense pressure. Some were warned about what could happen to their own status if they continued supporting Princess Diana publicly. This manipulation went beyond just limiting Princess Diana's ability to speak. It created a world in which she had very few people to turn to, even in her personal life. Imagine having friends you thought you could trust, only to discover that they were being influenced against you by one of the most powerful institutions in the world. It's a frightening, isolating tactic, and it worked. Princess Diana became increasingly alone, unable to rely on the very people she thought would always be there for her. This isolation made it that much harder for her to speak out. Number 9. Legal gag order. Another tactic employed to silence Princess Diana was the threat of legal action. Princess Diana was reportedly threatened with the potential legal gag order if she revealed any secrets about the royal family. This legal threat hung over her like a dark cloud. It was a powerful tool because it reminded Princess Diana that no matter how independent she became, there were limits to what she could say. The monarchy had its secrets. and they were prepared to use every measure to ensure those secrets remained hidden. The idea of facing a legal battle with the royal family's vast resources must have been terrifying. It's clear that Princess Diana was acutely aware of how her every word could be twisted or used against her. The threat of legal consequences was not just about gagging her. It was about instilling fear. If Princess Diana couldn't speak freely, then the truth would remain hidden, locked behind the palace doors, where the public would never see it. Number 10. Limiting charitable activities. The royals also tried to restrict Princess Diana's charity work. The reasoning? Princess Diana's growing influence in the charitable sector made her a beloved public figure, one that threatened to overshadow the more traditional aspects of the royal family. The establishment feared her popularity, particularly her hands-on approach, which resonated deeply with people worldwide. By limiting her ability to appear at charity events, they hoped to diminish her influence. This was especially true after her impact work with HIV and AIDS patients, where her compassion and willingness to touch those who were shunned by others made headlines around the globe. Princess Diana's charity work was her lifeline. It gave her a purpose beyond the confines of royal life. To restrict her involvement in these activities wasn't just an attempt to silence her voice. It was an attack on her identity. They sought to weaken her by taking away the very thing that made her powerful, her connection with people, and her ability to bring about change. Number 11. Tampering with correspondence. Another alarming measure reportedly used to keep Princess Diana in check was the interception of her mail. It was said that some of her letters were never delivered to her, further isolating her from the outside world. This wasn't just about preventing her from receiving fan mail or correspondence from supporters. It was about cutting off her lifeline to anyone who could provide comfort, advice, or solidarity. By tampering with her communications, the royal establishment aimed to create a sense of helplessness around Princess Diana. Imagine living your life without even being sure whether the letters you were receiving or sending were actually getting through. It was a way to control her connections and to monitor who she was in touch with. The interception of her correspondence wasn't just invasive. It was a strategic move to make her feel more alone. Without proper communication, Princess Diana found herself increasingly isolated, unable to reach out to allies or hear from those who genuinely cared about her well-being. Number 12. Manipulation through her children. Princess Diana's love for her children, Prince William and Prince Harry, was one of the most public and cherished parts of her life, and it was through her children that the royal family found a way to exert control over her. Princess Diana was allegedly pressured to behave in a way that wouldn't jeopardize her access to her boys. This manipulation was emotionally devastating for Princess Diana. The threat of not being able to see her children or having her time with them restricted was a powerful motivator for keeping her quiet. It kept her in line, because above all, Princess Diana wanted to protect Prince William and Prince Harry from the trauma of the separation and the public scrutiny that surrounded their lives. The royals knew that Princess Diana would do anything for her children, and they used this knowledge to silence her, ensuring that she didn't speak out too much, didn't push the boundaries too far, and always remained within a certain line that they had drawn for her. Number 13. Blocked access to royal residences. After her divorce, Princess Diana was reportedly denied access to certain royal residences. This wasn't just about cutting her off from the grand halls or official royal locations. It was about severing her ties to the inner circle of the royal family. By blocking her from places where key discussions and decisions were made, the royal family effectively isolated Princess Diana from any influence she might have had within their sphere. It was a powerful symbol that she was no longer part of the fold. The effect was both practical and emotional. On a practical level, Princess Diana couldn't be present at the places where events and gatherings were held, meaning she couldn't network, couldn't gain allies, and couldn't make her voice heard in those crucial settings. Emotionally, being denied access to the homes where she'd once been welcomed only deepened her sense of alienation. It made it clear to everyone, including Princess Diana herself, that she was no longer a part of the family she'd once been at the heart of. Number 14. Undermining her relationships. Princess Diana's personal relationships also came under attack. It's alleged that the royal family disapproved of Princess Diana's romantic relationships post-divorce. and used their influence to undermine them. Whether it was the constant paparazzi presence that made privacy impossible or subtle pressure behind the scenes, these relationships were often targeted to prevent Princess Diana from finding stability or happiness outside the royal sphere. By sabotaging her relationships, the royals ensured that Princess Diana remained emotionally vulnerable. There were even whispers that her romantic partners were subject to intense scrutiny and disapproval, discouraging them from staying involved with Princess Diana. It's chilling to think of how far the institution might have gone to ensure Princess Diana never found lasting companionship. The royals wanted to make sure that Princess Diana didn't form a new family unit or gather the emotional support she needed. In their eyes, the less stability Princess Diana had, the less powerful she would be, a way to ensure she was kept firmly under control. Number 15. Diplomatic pressure. Princess Diana's international advocacy work, such as her famous campaign against landmines, became another area of concern for the royal family. It's said that the royals exerted diplomatic pressure to discourage her activities in these politically sensitive areas. Princess Diana's anti-landmine campaign was a bold move that took her across the world, from Angola to Bosnia, and highlighted her compassion on a global stage. However, her activism was seen as risky by the royal establishment, which feared the potential political implications of her involvement. It was reported that Princess Diana was pressured to limit her international engagements, especially when her causes didn't align neatly with the royal family's diplomatic goals. The monarchy traditionally stayed neutral, avoiding political controversies. But Princess Diana was different. She wasn't afraid to highlight humanitarian crises, even if it meant stepping on some political toes. This independence put her at odds with the royals, and diplomatic channels were reportedly used to restrict her influence. It was yet another attempt to silence a voice that had become too powerful. Number 16. Restriction of press access. The royal aides also worked to restrict press access to Princess Diana. While it might seem counterintuitive, given how much Princess Diana was in the headlines, this was about controlling when, where, and how she could speak. They wanted to make sure that Princess Diana couldn't directly communicate her side of the story to the media without it being heavily filtered or twisted by the palace's spin doctors. Restricting press access meant that Princess Diana couldn't hold her own interviews, share her narrative, or highlight her charity work in the way she wanted. The press was instead fed controlled stories that depicted Princess Diana according to the royal family's agenda. This move wasn't just about preventing scandal. It was about controlling Princess Diana's ability to tell her story, in her words. It was about making sure that whatever narrative reached the public was one that the royal family could manage. They knew that as long as they could restrict her direct communication with the press, they could maintain the upper hand. Number 17. Threats of cutting off financial support. Another powerful tool used against Princess Diana was the threat of cutting off her financial support. After the divorce, Princess Diana's lifestyle was still partially funded by the royal family, which meant that they had leverage over her. There were threats that if Princess Diana engaged in activities that were deemed unfavorable by the royals, her financial support could be withdrawn. This financial dependency kept Princess Diana in a vulnerable position. She'd grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle and had commitments that required financial stability, including the education and well-being of her children. The implicit threat of losing this security was enough to make anyone think twice about stepping out of line. It was a chilling reminder that, despite her public profile, Princess Diana's independence had very real limits. The royals used their financial power to keep her on a tight leash, ensuring that she didn't stray too far from what they considered acceptable behavior. It was a subtle but deeply effective means of control. Number 18. Withholding information. Princess Diana was often not informed about royal protocols or decisions, keeping her out of the loop and limiting her authority. By withholding crucial information, the royal family effectively prevented Princess Diana from participating in or influencing important matters. This exclusion wasn't just an oversight. It was a calculated move to keep her powerless. Whether it was about royal events, decisions that impacted her children, or even her own status, Princess Diana was often left in the dark. The lack of transparency meant that she couldn't prepare, couldn't make informed decisions, and was often caught off guard. It was another layer of control, ensuring that she remained a step behind the rest of the royal family. By controlling information, They controlled Princess Diana's ability to function effectively within or around the institution. It's hard to fight back or assert your independence when you're not even sure what's going on, and that's exactly how they wanted it to be. Number 19. Attempt to discredit her mental health. One of the cruelest tactics allegedly used against Princess Diana was an attempt to portray her mental health struggles as evidence of instability. Princess Diana was open about her struggles with bulimia and depression, issues that were deeply affected by the pressures of royal life. Instead of offering support, these vulnerabilities were weaponized against her. The royal family allegedly used Princess Diana's mental health issues to depict her as unstable, hoping to undermine her credibility in the eyes of the public. The stigma around mental health at the time was much stronger, and the royals knew that by painting Princess Diana as mentally unstable, they could make her less believable and diminish her influence. It's incredibly tragic, considering how much courage it took for Princess Diana to speak openly about her struggles. Instead of helping her, they turned her pain into a tool for control. The portrayal of Princess Diana as someone who was emotionally erratic was intended to keep her silent, because if she spoke, they could easily discredit her as simply being unwell. Number 20. Secret deals with journalists. Some journalists were reportedly offered exclusive access to royal stories in exchange for not publishing sympathetic articles about Princess Diana. This behind-the-scenes manipulation was all about ensuring that the media presented Princess Diana in the way the royal family wanted. By offering exclusive stories, the royals effectively bought loyalty from certain members of the press. In return, these journalists would steer clear of giving Princess Diana the positive coverage she so often deserved. It was a deal that allowed the royal family to control the narrative, to ensure that no matter how well Princess Diana conducted herself, the media would still be filled with stories that portrayed her in a negative light. The royals understood the power of the press and used it to their advantage. By making these secret deals, they ensured that Princess Diana remained on the back foot, unable to control the negative press with her own story. This wasn't just about silencing Princess Diana. It was about controlling her image so thoroughly that even if she did speak, no one would believe her. From restricting her public appearances to discrediting her mental health, it's clear that Princess Diana faced unimaginable challenges. But despite all these efforts, her voice still resonates today. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these tactics do you think was the most shocking or effective in silencing Diana? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with others who might find it interesting, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!